Hey, this is Davin with Hagerty and our Redline rebuild updates relative to our 1950 Chevy pickup truck. We're on to the gas tank and the heater core today. So what we're going to do is, well, there's a lot of rust inside of this gas tank. Now, outside, it's in pretty decent shape. I don't believe there's any holes in it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sending unit out so I can get a little better look at it and give you a little better look at what's inside. And I'm going to use some milkstone and some rocks and basically slosh it around, let it soak for a day, and then drain it all out and see what the inside of this looks like. Now, these tanks are certainly available through most of the auto parts stores. I'm sure LMC has these as well. But quite frankly, if I can reuse this, I'm going to reuse it. I've done the same thing with the heater core. Actually, it's over here. And as ugly as this may look, I have pressure I have pressure tested this. I have soaked a little lime away in it and have it fairly clean. You can hear there is something in it, but it's not going to hurt anything as far as I'm concerned. And I cannot buy this heater core, or at least I have not found anyone that has these heater cores. So I'm going to get this put back in and also test the blower motor. Now, granted, for this truck, does it make a big difference if we have a lot of heat? No, absolutely not. We're going to be driving it during the summer, all those types of things. But there are some days in the early mornings and the evenings that get a little chilly. And it's always a good idea to have at least a defroster as far as blowing some amount of air across your windshield to keep that clean. I found that's more useful than physical heat, but this is part of that circuit. So that, I'm going to see if I can get the sending unit out. I'm not holding a whole lot of confidence in that these screws are going to hold up. As far as I'm probably going to have to put some heat to them. Now, this fuel tank has not seen fuel in many, many years and has no even smell of rotten gasoline in it. So I'm not concerned about heating this. If this was anything different than that, I would not recommend putting any heat to a fuel tank. All right, so here's our plan of attack on this tank. We have the sending unit off. We broke about, well, 3 out of 5 of them off, as far as the screws are concerned. Before I get into repairing those, we went through and kind of inspected the tank. Yes, there's rust inside of it. There are no visible holes outwardly. This is the absolute worst as far as the outside is concerned. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to soak it with some milkstone and some rocks, basically to help break up as I roll it around. We'll loosen it up with the milkstone and then use rocks in the tank, kind of shuffle it around, and that'll break up the bigger pieces. And we're going to see how well it cleans up. Now, if it doesn't clean up well enough to where it doesn't hold gasoline, I will get a new tank. But quite honestly, for the $10 worth of milkstone and letting it just sit all by itself and do its own thing, if I can save the tank, I save the tank. One less thing to have to buy. Uh-oh. I don't remember dripping any, do you? All right, well, hey, I am an eternal optimist. And then sometimes you get beat. So here's where we're at. We have a minor pinhole in this fuel tank, and you can see it dripping. And we just put a little bit of the milkstone, well, we put a gallon worth of milkstone in it, and it found the hole. So, hey, at least we didn't spend a whole lot more time on this. So, guess I'll be ordering a new one. All right, hey, we're back here with our gas tank, and I am going to have to salvage this. Our tank has a hole in it. I need to salvage this little fitting off the bottom, but the best part is we have a fresh new tank, and it's gonna cure our leaking woes. Look at that beauty. But since I want to be able to take fuel out of it, I'll have to replace that little neck piece, but it's got a fresh neck up here. It's got our sending unit. It even came with actually it came with fresh screws and a gasket, so beautiful. All right, so I need to get this dressed up, get that one the rest of the way stripped apart, and then we can put the new one into the pickup truck. Whoa. Okay, so here's our sending unit out of our fuel tank, and as I mentioned, it's froze up here. And what I want to do though is I want to take and pull this apart. I want to see how bad the inside of this is before I spend too much time and effort trying to get this working. If there's something that's detrimentally broke. But there's 3 rivets here. I'll take and pop that apart. It should slide apart after that. We'll see. But here's how this is supposed to function. I've soaked it and heated it actually a little bit and got everything broke loose. So now it moves nice and freely. So now as this float, or as your fuel tank rises and level, then your float, of course, floats and rises, and it rotates the arm up top, okay? And you'll see on here in this little arm, there's a little pickup point that hits into this, basically a long resistor, a contact resistor. So this is power in, the case is ground, and as this rotates through, the distance from the pickup, or from the positive to where this pickup point is at, changes, and as that changes, the resistance changes. So say the longer the distance it is here, then the more resistance you have, and then likewise. Now, let's check it and verify before we put it all back together. Obviously, and I need to clean all this area up and seal it in some fashion, which I think just probably some RTV will be sufficient. So let's see, the cap was on like this. And this was riveted together with some brass rivets. Those brass rivets were not doing anything more than basically an assembly function relative to this is a sub-assembly. So if you think of it from a manufacturing standpoint, you wouldn't want to have this cap just bouncing around and damaging that little arm, so they riveted it together but had rivets such that, you know, screws would go through there. For our purposes going back together, I'm not going to bounce this around an assembly line. I'm going to hand carry it over and stick it in the tank, so we'll be fine without those rivets. As long as we provide a good solid connection between ground-wise. So using a multimeter set on ohms, negative will be on the case, positive on the line going in, and right now I have basically, it's fluctuating a little bit, but basically have 0, well, 1.5 ohms. Now, as I lift the float, you can see it's changing. So now I'm at 1.8. So basically when I'm all the way down, you can see there's a dead spot right in here. So so here's my 1.8, now I'm up 3.6, 4 point, so on and so forth. And now when I get all the way up to the top, I am at about 25, 27 ohms. So that change in resistance is what drives the gauge to read empty to full. So I'm confident at least in putting this back in. I've also tested the float in some water. It does float. It doesn't have a hole in it, or it doesn't appear to have a hole in it at this point. So I'm going to finish getting this cleaned up, this cap and all this cleaned up a little better. Again, reattach everything. And I think actually what I'm going to do is just put some dielectric grease in here so I know I have a good solid contact between here and here. It doesn't really need to seal environment-wise, so that's how I'm going to tackle this. Get it put into the brand new fuel tank. I also have the little stub that comes out of the bottom of the tank. I will clean this up just on a wire brush, get rid of my marks that I used to get it out with, and put some Teflon around the brass going into the tank. And of course, when I put the fitting on, I'll do the same thing down here. And then at that point, we can put some rubber strapping underneath the bottom of the tank, so where the tank sits into the truck, basically call it the cradle or the mount, there's some rubber, or it really looks like roofing felt paper originally. And but I'm just going to use some rubber I got at the hardware store, lay it in there. It's so it doesn't rub a hole in the tank between the metal mount and the metal tank. And we'll put that in there, put the straps back on, and the tank will be fresh, of course, with some rubber lines going up so you can fill it from the outside. And that'll wrap up our tank project. So here we go, we'll get that done. Fuel tank is installed. We're able to reuse the old straps. I put a little bit of rubber here as well as down here to help protect the tank from the metal rubbing through. The fuel sender the original fuel sender is put back in, nice rubber gasket in there, everything was working fine. I need to run that line from underneath up to the sender. I'll get that done here in a little bit. And then of course the vent tube and then the filler tube have brand new rubber lines to them as far as the coupler is concerned. And at this point we're ready to move to the bottom side, put the pepcock on the bottom of the fuel tank, and then run the fuel line up to where the engine will be. But this side is done. All right, so I have the fuel tank in, our fuel line is run, the drain and the union, if you will, is done in the bottom of the tank, so that's all buttoned up all the way out to here. This will go directly to the fuel pump once the engine's put back in place. I also ran the sending line for the fuel tank gauge from the harness onto the top of there. I have to put one little ground loop on, that's all that's left there. So the fuel lines and system are all buttoned up from that aspect. Now I'm going to get after the heater core, putting all that back together. This is the heater box here in 2 pieces, and just going to basically put it all back together. I'm going to get that started today, but it is towards the end of the day, so I'm not going to get this finished today, but I'm going to start working after it. And but most importantly, go ahead, click and subscribe, like us on Facebook and YouTube and all those types of things. And hey, keep tuning in, because we're going to have a whole lot more of this. And if nothing else, this truck still isn't done, but we're getting closer.